I'm Samantha Parker, 32 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my younger sister Jessica has taken what was mine, first my toys, then my clothes, and eventually my spotlight at every family event. But I never imagined she'd take my husband. That revelation came last month, during my birthday dinner. As Jessica stood there, smiling brightly and announcing her pregnancy, with Kyle, my husband, I felt my world split open. What neither of them knew, though, was that I had been hiding something too. Something that would destroy their little fantasy. But before I get to that, let me take you back. Growing up in Jessica's shadow was like being the understudy to a lead actress who never missed a performance. She was 4 years younger, blonder, more charming, or at least that's how my parents saw her. Jessica had the prettier dresses, the louder birthday parties, and the last piece of cake, even when it was mine. My parents didn't lack love for me, but their attention? Their excitement? That was reserved for her. I remember bringing home straight A report cards, only to hear a polite, "That's nice, Sam," while Jessica's crayon doodles earned fridge space and applause. My father, who missed every debate competition I ever had, somehow never missed a single softball game she played. Slowly, quietly, resentment hardened inside me like sediment. Jessica's pattern was always the same: if I loved it, she wanted it. My favorite teddy bear went missing, only to reappear in her bed. The sweater I saved up for was suddenly hers. Even when I got the lead in the school play, she developed a sudden flair for drama, and my parents immediately enrolled her in expensive acting lessons. The family's mantra? "Why can't you just share with your little sister?" Always said to me. Never to her. So I learned to guard what mattered: my thoughts, my passions, my future. College was my escape. I moved 3 states away to Northwestern, far enough that Jessica couldn't follow. Those 4 years gave me the space to become someone apart from her. I built real friendships. I found my passion for marketing. And then I met Kyle. Kyle Henderson had this messy hair and a nervous energy that made him instantly likable. He spilled coffee on my notes the first time we met in an advanced marketing seminar. His clumsiness should have annoyed me, but it didn't. He offered to buy me dinner to make up for it, and that dinner turned into an all-night conversation. "I've never met anyone who gets me like you do," he told me. For once, I felt truly seen. We fell in love, built a life, and got married. Kyle proposed on the shores of Lake Michigan at sunrise. It felt like the start of everything I had waited for. We moved to the suburbs of Chicago, flourished in our careers, and talked about starting a family, eventually. Kyle wanted to wait until we were more financially secure, though I sensed there was something else holding him back. I gave him space. The first 2 years were blissful. But over time, things shifted. Kyle started coming home later. His phone was always face down. He became cagey, protective of his passwords, and distant in bed. The excuses piled up: stress, deadlines, long meetings. He said once the promotion settled, things would go back to normal. They didn't. I noticed other things too: strange perfume, unexplained calls to a number I didn't know, a long blonde hair on his jacket that didn't belong to me. Jessica had long blonde hair. But I told myself I was being paranoid. My insecurities from childhood were flaring up, I thought. Jessica lived in the same city, but we barely saw her. I convinced myself I was overthinking. Then came my birthday dinner at Merlot, my favorite restaurant. Kyle had been distant all week but said he'd make it special. My parents organized the dinner. I wore the dress Kyle once said brought out my eyes. I looked in the mirror and whispered, "Tonight will be a new beginning." I had no idea how right I was. When I arrived, Kyle wasn't there yet. He said he'd meet us after a work call. Jessica hadn't arrived either, which wasn't surprising. She liked to be the last to show up, maximizing attention. My parents were polite. My mom critiqued my lipstick. My dad handed me a gift bag. Just another night in the Parker family. Then Jessica arrived, loud laugh, red dress, dramatic entrance. But what made my stomach drop was who walked in behind her: Kyle. He touched the small of her back as they navigated the tables. "Sorry. We're late," Jessica said cheerfully, kissing my cheek without leaving a mark. Ran into Kyle in the parking lot. Lucky coincidence, right? He sat beside me, squeezed my shoulder. "Happy birthday, Sam." I noticed he smelled like he'd just showered. The work call excuse felt flimsy. Dinner went on. Kyle was quiet. My parents talked about their latest cruise. Jessica dominated the conversation, talking about work and celebrities she may or may not have met. When the gifts came, my parents gave me a department store gift card. Kyle gave me diamond earrings, pretty, impersonal. Jessica handed me a muddy orange designer scarf. "It's exactly your color," she lied. Then came the lava cake. My dad raised a toast to my responsible daughter who's built a stable life. Not happy. Not impressive. Just stable. Before we could sing, Jessica stood up. "I have an announcement," she beamed. She smoothed her dress over her stomach. I'm pregnant. The table went silent. My mom gasped with delight. My dad smiled wider than he ever had for any of my accomplishments. Then Jessica added, Kyle's the father. There it was. The truth dropped like a bomb. My husband. My sister. Expecting a baby. Kyle stared at the table. This wasn't how we were going to tell you, he mumbled. Jessica took his hand. We wanted to wait until after the first trimester, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. We're going to be a family, Sam. The performance was cruelly perfect. On my birthday. At my favorite restaurant. In front of my parents. My mother, ever the optimist where Jessica was concerned, immediately latched onto the baby. A grandchild, she said, her voice softening. Well, a baby is always a blessing. Of course she would say that. Jessica had always been forgiven. Everything she did was spun into gold. Kyle touched my arm. Can we talk? He whispered. I stood up. I need the restroom. In the bathroom stall, I waited for the breakdown. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt a strange calm. A sense of clarity. This wasn't a sudden betrayal, it was the end of a long, predictable pattern. Jessica always took what was mine. Kyle had been distant for months. I had just refused to connect the dots. When I returned to the table, they were discussing baby names. Jessica suggested Kyle Jr. or Henderson, using my married name as a first name. Henderson Parker has a ring to it, don't you think? She grinned. I smiled. You've certainly given me a birthday to remember, I said evenly. But if you don't mind, I'd like to eat my cake before it melts. Everyone stared at me, confused by my calm. Jessica was waiting for my breakdown. I took a bite of cake. What? I asked. Did you think I'd cry? Run out? Sorry to disappoint. Jessica blinked. We just thought you'd be more upset. Oh, I am, I said, but unlike some people, I don't need to put on a show. I set my fork down. Besides, there's something you should all know. Kyle's face tensed. Jessica's smile froze. I've known about the affair for 3 months. Kyle's head snapped up. Jessica paled. You really should change your email password more often, Kyle. Our anniversary date? Not exactly secure. Especially when you started acting so suspicious. My mother gasped. Samantha, please, this isn't not appropriate? I said sharply. Neither is announcing an affair with your sister's husband at her birthday dinner. I told them how I borrowed Kyle's laptop in March. How the email notification from Jessica popped up. Subject line, last night. I clicked. It was graphic. Specific. Detailed. So I hired a private investigator, Davis and Associates. They followed. Kyle. Took photos. Recorded calls. They had proof of him entering Jessica's apartment 27 different nights. They even had the receipt for the bracelet she was wearing, the one she claimed was from a client. Silence fell across the table. I picked up my fork. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to finish my cake. Jessica instinctively covered the gold bracelet on her wrist, her confidence visibly cracking. You've been investigating me? Kyle's voice rose. That's an invasion of privacy. I laughed, an actual laugh, sharp and bitter. That's rich coming from the man who invaded my marriage. But don't worry. The investigation was completely legal. Unlike adultery, which, in case you forgot, is still grounds for fault-based divorce in this state. My father shifted uncomfortably. Samantha, perhaps we should. I'm not finished. I cut him off. 2 months ago, I'd contacted Patricia Donovan, one of the best divorce attorneys in Chicago. The paperwork was already prepared. I'd documented everything, gathered financial records, secured my assets, followed Patricia's advice to wait until I had everything before confronting Kyle. His face shifted through a spectrum, shock, pale horror, and finally, that sickly green of dread. Jessica, once smug, now looked completely unmoored, realizing she hadn't made a bold revelation but walked into a well-laid trap. You've been planning to divorce me? Kyle asked hoarsely. All this time? Yes, I said simply. I was going to serve you next week. Jessica just accelerated the timeline. My mother's eyes welled. But Samantha, a divorce is so final. Surely with counseling, Mom, I interrupted gently but firmly. There's no coming back from this. I turned to Jessica, locking eyes. And there's one more thing you should all know. From my purse, I retrieved a folded document I'd been carrying for weeks. Never imagined the perfect moment would be my own birthday dinner. Kyle had a vasectomy 2 years ago, I said, sliding the medical report across the table. We decided. Children weren't in our future. He didn't want the responsibility. Jessica blinked, her mouth parting slightly. That's not possible. You're lying. Check the document, I said. Sacred Heart Medical Center. Dr. Reynolds. Procedure done. 26 months ago. Kyle recovered on our couch, binge-watching March Madness with frozen peas in his lap. Kyle looked like he might be sick. Sam, I can explain. Explain what? Jessica snapped, turning to him. That you had a vasectomy and never told me? That you let me believe. She stopped herself, realizing what she'd just admitted. My mother's hands shook as she examined the report. Is this true, Kyle? His silence confirmed everything. I turned to Jessica. So, sister dear, if you're truly pregnant, congratulations are in order. Just not to Kyle. Because he's shooting blanks. So, who's the father? Jessica's face went ghost white. Her eyes darted to the gawking diners nearby, realizing the scene she had walked us all into. This is a mistake, she whispered. The records must be wrong. They're not, Kyle said quietly. I should have told you. I didn't think it would matter. We were using protection, or supposed to be. You never thought she'd try to trap you with a baby that couldn't be yours, I said. Rookie mistake, Kyle. You forgot Jessica always has an angle. Jessica stood abruptly, her chair screeching. I need some air. She grabbed her purse and rushed to the exit. Kyle looked torn, glancing at her then back at me. Go ahead, I said. Follow her. You two deserve each other. He stood and followed, leaving me alone with my stunned parents. Samantha, my father said. I don't know what to say. There's nothing to say, I replied, picking up my fork and taking another bite of birthday cake that now tasted like ash. Except maybe that Jessica needs a different kind of doctor now. One who can help her figure out the baby's actual father. My mother was crying quietly, mascara streaking her cheeks. How can you be so calm? She asked. This is a disaster. No, Mom. A disaster is a hurricane. This? I set down my fork. This was predictable. Preventable. Jessica has been taking what's mine since we were kids. You just kept letting her. I signaled for the check, aware of the restaurant's hush and the diners who had long stopped pretending not to listen. Kyle returned alone, face ashen. He slid into his seat, running a hand through his hair. Where's Jessica? My mother asked. In her car. She's upset. I imagine finding out she's not carrying your child would be upsetting, I said evenly. Sam, can we talk? There's so much I need to explain. My father cut in. Is it true? About the vasectomy? Kyle nodded reluctantly. Yes. 2 years ago. Sam and I agreed. You decided, I corrected. You didn't want kids. I was willing to. Wait. He turned to me. It was mutual. At the time. Sure. Let's go with that. My mother clutched the pearls at her neck, as if they'd anchor her in this chaos. I just don't understand how this happened. How could you both do this to Samantha? Jessica reappeared, red-eyed but composed, and slid into her chair. I'm sorry for running out, she murmured. I needed a moment. The waiter, poor soul, tiptoed over. Would anyone like coffee or dessert? Just the check, I said. I've already signed it. Wait, Jessica said. I want to explain. She looked at me. What happened between Kyle and me, it wasn't planned. We never meant to hurt you. And yet you chose to announce it on my birthday, I said. Jessica had the grace to look ashamed. That was wrong. I thought it would be easier with family around. I didn't think, you never do, I replied. You never think about anyone but yourself. Kyle doesn't belong to you, she said, defiant again. He was my husband. You were my sister. There should have been lines you didn't cross. My father's voice came again, rough and low. Jessica. If Kyle isn't the father, Jessica looked at her lap. There was someone before Kyle. He's married too. I ended it when things got serious with Kyle. I thought, you miscalculated, I said, the absurdity hitting me. You had an affair with one married man, then slept with your sister's husband, got pregnant by the first, and tried to pass the baby off as my husband's. Brilliant. Jessica looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. I really thought Kyle was the father. Well, he's not. So now you need to decide what to do. Kyle finally spoke again. You told me I was the only one. That it had been months since anyone else. Jessica reached for his hand. I made a mistake, but what we have is real. He pulled away. Is it? Or am I just another thing you took from your sister? Jessica looked wounded. My mother reached again. For peace. Let's all take some time. This has been a shock for everyone. That's an understatement, my father muttered. I stood, smoothing my dress. That's wise. Kyle, my attorney will contact you. Please find somewhere else to stay in the meantime. Sam, please, he said. Can't we talk? We're past talking. You made your choice. You just didn't have the courage to tell me. I turned to my parents. Thanks for dinner. It was certainly memorable. As I gathered my things, Jessica called out, you can't just leave like this. I paused. Looked at her. Really looked. Underneath her perfect appearance, I finally saw it, deep, gnawing insecurity. I'm not leaving anything, I said. I'm walking away. There's a difference. I hope you figure out who the baby's father is. That's not my problem anymore. I left the restaurant, feeling strangely light. The betrayal still hurt. But for the first time, I wasn't walking in Jessica's shadow. I in the parking lot. I took a deep breath. My phone buzzed. A text from Kyle, please come home. We need to talk. I deleted it. Then I drove away. Not just from dinner. From everything that had kept me small.